Okay, let's call this meeting to order. This is a meeting of the Facilities and Safety Committee meeting. It has been posted as required by statute of the Open Meetings Act. And we're going to go ahead and start. And the first item of business will be Mr. Tapia to give us the ESSER 3 funded projects status.
Thank you, Mr. Powers, members of the committee, Mr. Villarreal, colleagues. The first item I'm going to talk about are the ESSER-funded projects. As you remember, last meeting, I presented this as projects that we were proposing to go to the board. They did go to the school board, and they were awarded different projects to Dakin, Train, and Carrier for $1.6 million. So all we're doing now is waiting for we've issued the purchase orders, so we're waiting for the vendors to get with the manufacturers to start getting estimated delivery times. How long is it going to take the manufacturer? The smaller 4-ton, 5-ton units will probably come in a lot quicker. They're more readily available, but the larger air handler units and the large chillers will probably take several months. Normally we would take 8 to 10 weeks. We're probably looking at 16 to 20 weeks now. So we'll keep you posted as when that equipment will be coming in. And that's the listing of the projects that we awarded at the last board meeting. Any questions on the ESSER-funded projects? I'm going to be working on the next group. This is only $1.5 million. There's probably another $6.5 million worth of AC projects we're going to be proposing, as well as some roofing projects and something for the buses to help purify the air. We're looking at a couple of different things. So all those will qualify under the ESSER funds. So we're probably going to be looking at about $15 million worth of improvements through facilities. That's just an example of an air-cooled chiller at Austin Elementary that'll be replaced. Rooftop units at Jefferson. And Harlingen High has about 70 of these small units. When the school was originally built as an academy, a freshman academy, it was designed with each room having its own unit on the original school. So there's about 70 of them, and that's the last phase that we'll have to do to have all new units at Harlingen South. Move on to the next item. Any questions?
Just briefly, on the Harlingen High, the 70 units, is it more cost effective to replace 70 units or to rethink the AC system for that school?
We discussed that with our engineering firm, Ethos Engineering, and it's a lot simpler and more cost effective to replace the one-to-ones. These have been up there almost 20 years. We've been kind of patching them up as the years go by. But to change the design to a zone, let's say 10 classrooms on one unit, it'd be a huge, probably 50, 60 ton unit. The weight of that, the roof is not designed to hold that size of concentrated load. So the whole structure would have to be redesigned, maybe some columns, and it got really, we looked into that because that's something that I brought up initially, but it just was not cost effective, and the structural changes to carry that weight just couldn't be done.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. We'll move on to the Treasure Hills Phase 2 project. We're about 95%, 96%. We're working on punch lists right now. We're going to be having city inspections later this week to see if we can get a temporary certificate of occupancy. One of the things that we've been waiting for are the metal panels, the standing seam metal panels on the roof. We're finally got some materials in, but they're installing the bottom part, which is called the soffit. The actual part that goes on top got delivered to Edinburgh, but now they need to ship it here by the end of this week. And instead of getting them pre-manufactured at the factories, they actually had to rent a machine that's going to roll them on site to manufacture them on site, because the lead time to go through a normal process is just months and months and months. So that's something the contractor did to try to accelerate the construction completion of this project.
Did that increase costs at all?
To the contractor, it did. They want to charge us some additional funds, which we kind of don't feel we have to, but we'll see when it comes to it. If they want to send us some kind of letter, we'll get with our legal to see what we're obligated to pay or not under the contract.
How much?
Yeah, I think, what, 100,000 they're talking about? 91,000 additional cost.
But they submitted a bid back then, and that's the bid that with Poland too. Even though prices do increase and decrease, I mean, that's the bid that they submit in, that's what they're obligated to complete it at.
Okay.
And
I'm sure they're gonna-
and
So
I've
we're
already,
under no, we didn't request them to do it on site, so we're under no obligation to pay any extra costs.
yeah, and a lot of that extra cost is they had to change subcontractors, because the original contractor didn't place the orders in time. So by the time he placed the orders, it had gone up in price, and he was gonna take a big loss. And so, well, that's not our problem. You didn't order them, 3, 4, 5 months ago, back when the first issue came up. And I said, well, we just didn't know because of COVID. It's on an unusual circumstance, one of those act of gods, and that there's issues in the contracts that can cover that. So I've already given our legal team a heads up. They're gonna be reviewing it. The first thing we need to do is wait for the architect to give us his recommendation, because he's administering the contract for us, and see if he sides with us or with the contractor, Mike Alex, or whether he wants to suggest some kind of compromise between the two parties. But I've already talked to Mike Alex and said, you need to review what they're gonna submit to you, and then based on the AIA contract, the legal contract, you need to tell us what you recommend as our project architect. So we're not there yet, but we'll see what he recommends, and then we'll bring it forth.
Okay, thank you.
And as far as the administration building, again, it's just the punch list items they're working on. The library's already being occupied, and the mini gym, we already put the metal panels on the walls like we have at all the other elementaries. And the addition
Looks nice.
is almost complete as well for the storage and coach's office. And that's just the connection between the old wing and the new wing, and the gym's on the right, the administration's on the left. So there's just some work they have to do there on the entries to the office areas. And some punch list items they're working on, adjusting doors and things like that. On this building here, I'm not gonna talk too much about it because we're gonna take a tour here in a little bit, and waiting to see if our project architect shows up so we can split up in 2 groups. If not, I'll try my best to try to keep one group together if it's not too big. So basically, we're already in here. We're planning a ribbon cutting on November 15th, and we'll give you guys a tour here in a little bit. The golf station covered structure, they've already worked on the footings. You can see there the groundwork, and they've already poured the concrete, and the structure, the metal structure is already up there. You can see the metal structure with the posts and the roof. And the block structure on the right is a storage building that we have for them so they can store some of their golf equipment. And tennis covered shade structures at the 2 high schools. The ones at the high schools are complete. You can see there, they're red in color, obviously, and they really like them. They give a lot of shade. They moved on to south, and they're starting to work on the footings and the rebar so they can pour those and get the posts in, and then it'll go pretty quick. The elementary playground equipment I presented last time, we did take it to the board. It was approved, so we've already issued the purchase order to Park Place Recreational Designs. So we'll just see how long it takes for the materials to come in so they can start erecting. At Wilson, we're tearing out this old structure and putting in this new one for the kids, and repair of some other ones that I presented at the last meeting. And that's pretty much it. I can turn it over to Julio Cavazos for the financial report. And after that, we'll recess the meeting, take a tour. When we come back, we'll come back into recess, and then make a motion to adjourn, and then we'll complete the meeting and move on to the next one after that.
Does anybody have any questions before we move on to the financial report? All right. Well, let me just say one real quick thing. This ESSER thing is really a huge asset to this school district. I mean, it frees up how much money, Julio, to be used on other projects?
We were planning to use probably about $15 to $20 million for HVAC project over the next 3 years. That's shifting those dollars over to ESSER.
And so we'll be able to use those funds on other projects that we want. So it's like gaining a year and a half of our TRE in advance.
Yeah, in so many ways, yes.
That's phenomenal. But you and your staff and Oscar, everybody that applied for that grant and got it, I think that's terrific.
So there's ESSER 3 and then there's ESSER 2. ESSER 3 was a $69 million grant. ESSER 2 was a $25 million grant that we just received as well. And yeah, we do have some HVAC, another clean air, quality air, maintenance type of items that we can use those funds for.
So we're getting about 20 million, but all the other money is going to educational related projects.
Fantastic, just a great asset to this school district and the community. Ms. Fleury.
Yes, thank you. Hello, everybody. Isn't this exciting? I have a question and a comment. I feel, as Oscar knows where I'm coming from, I feel really strongly that the priority above everything else needs to be the air quality. Before the buildings, before anything. I think it needs to be the air quality, and I think that's the intent of the money. Is we want to save our children's lives, we want to save our faculty, our staff. So I'm really pleased about that. I just want to always want to go on record that what it's really about is about the quality of what the air inside. And because we've not been able to do that before. And so I think the money's just perfect, and it's perfect for this. So, and anything else we can do, that's hallelujah time. But so I'm hoping that is the priority. That's number one. And number two, I was going to ask that very question about, are there any formulas? Certainly public education has benefited hugely from this money. Greg, you're absolutely right. Is there any percentage on that, or the direction in terms of how much should be used? I'm sure we're doing it properly, that's not a question. But is there any direction that we've been given in terms of the percentage that should be used for instruction as opposed to facilities and construction and things?
Yeah, very good question, and there is, we're supposed to use 20%, at least 20% towards the instruction and bringing kids up to par as far as your education. So it's only 20%, and yeah, we've allocated way more than that
Great.
towards education.
Great, thank you. That's great. It's wonderful, Greg. You're right, wonderful. Thank you so much.
Okay, we're ready, Oscar, for this. Julio, I'm sorry.
Who's going to present the
Yeah,
financial?
financial reports.
Thank you, Mr. Powers, the committee members. So, page 38 is the construction funds report as of October 31st, and you do have on column 1, year 1 through 6 of the budget, which is $83 million, and then year 7 of the budget of $7 million. So we have spent and committed the first 6 years $75.5 million. What we spent and committed this year, and this is money that we spent and we have encumbered, another 7.6. So total spent and committed through date about a little bit over $83 million, and we still have a balance of about $9.9 million there. And that's because we haven't really kicked off the projects for this year. So we still have those projects pending. It's a lot of money that we spent the first, over the first 7 years. Any questions by any of the committee members?
All right, well, so we're going to recess right now, and Oscar is going to take us on a tour. And I'm excited. This is my first tour, so let's go.
Here we go. 15 minutes, so we got 45 minutes to tour.
Oh,
I guess we'll do one group, 'cause,
the district. This is just an incredible building and facility, and I know these kids that are here are just ecstatic. So thank you all for everything you're doing. I don't think there's any further business for this committee at this time, so we stand adjourned.
Somebody clap for everybody?
Yeah.
So we're gonna pass out.
And I've got Alicia's in.
All right, good evening, everybody. I'd like to call this meeting, the meeting of the Transforming Teaching and Learning Committee meeting. The time is now 5:07, and this has been posted in accordance to the Opens Meeting Act. And I'd like to start off with Lori Romero discussing Innovative Days. Thank you, Lori.
All right, good evening, board members, senior team, and audience, and welcome. So we're going to talk about a topic that's different this year. Last year, obviously, right, a little bit of the background, we had a lot of academic gaps. With our pandemic, we knew that our little ones were having to learn a different way, and so we had to assimilate to that. But in the process, all the research showed that there was going to be some gaps there, right? And so when our calendar committee got together, one of the things that they were looking at, what can we do different? How can we innovate and give our campuses a chance to fill in some of these needs that our students are going to come to us with? And so that is where those Innovative Days came from. And so as always, we look at our strategic plan, and we always try to align with our goals of what we've done and why we do the work that we do. And so there's some key words that you look at these three goals that I have here on the top. One of them that I want to draw our attention to is our high quality instruction. And you see on goal 1, individualized learning. Very important. We've been talking about how we're having to go to that next level of individualizing our learning because our students are on different paths, right, of where they are academically. And then also the other piece, looking at their weaknesses and their strengths in order to address their needs. No longer is it one size fits all. We can no longer teach to the middle and then not worry about who's above the middle and who's below the middle. That type of strategy is just not going to work with the students that we have coming in our classrooms. And then when we look at goal 4, looking as always, what are we going to be assessing? How often are we going to be assessing what our students are doing, how they're producing, are they growing? And are they on that right track for that post-secondary and career readiness? So all very important things that should drive our work every day in our classrooms. And so the purpose of our Innovative Days, the major one, like I said, the research showed when they looked at our reading, they said our students are going to be behind at least a year in the area of reading and literacy. But in the area of numeracy, we saw more of a gap, and that was across the state and the nation. Anywhere from 1.5 years to 2 years of a gap. And we know that math is developmental, right? And so we knew that that was going to be a huge need for our students. But the second piece with the Innovative Days, we also knew we needed to provide some type of enrichment. And we knew we needed to make it fun. It couldn't be the same thing that we were doing every day. We wanted to draw our students to come to campus, do something different, experience something fun, So while we're closing those academic gaps, also making sure we're enriching where we need to, right? Because there's those two pieces. You have your intervention, but you have your acceleration. Because if you just do the first part, you'll never catch them up, right? So we need to make sure that we're also accelerating at the same time and getting them back at that level that they need to be. And then the third piece, which is so important, God bless our teachers. They have been working around the clock, in the weekend, up all hours of the night. And so this also allowed us to be a little bit creative and give our teachers a little bit of extra planning time. The principals did an awesome job with scheduling. Students were able to go out and receive enrichment. And during that time, our teachers got anywhere from 45 minutes to another hour on top of their conference time just to plan, just to sit and look at data again and plan, okay, what are my next steps here? Very much needed for those 2 days. And so some of our facts about Innovative Days, this part was a little bit, I think, confusing to our community, right? That it is not a calendar day. There's no funding, it's not an ADA, so if your student doesn't come, they're not gonna be counted absent, it's okay. And so, making sure we were communicating that, sending that out to our parents, because it was very new, but it is not actually a calendar day. The other piece about it, we really, really wanted to look at small group intervention. We all know that small group, whether it's intervention or acceleration, just works, marvels, right? Because when you're able to sit in a group of 5 students as opposed to 20 or 22, it's a very different feel, right? And you're able to have them right next to you and kind of just be bringing them along with you. So that small group intervention and acceleration, very important piece as well. The students were invited to participate, and how we did that is we looked at our data. We looked at maps, which is new. It gave us a wealth of information of where children were at with their lexiles, their quantiles in math. In elementary, we always use iStation. We've been using that for years. That also gives us another marker of a lexile to see where they're at. And our guided reading, which we do to Scholastic. We do an assessment called Running Records. What that assessment does is it tells us exactly what level a child's at in the continuum. And so it'll give me a letter. This child is in letter A. This child is in letter P. And that's the type of spread you'll see in one classroom. I'm not exaggerating. You can go all the way from an A to a P. And so the only way you're going to reach these students is to group them into small groups and meet them where they're at. And so we looked at all of that data, and based on the need, they were invited to participate in our Innovative Days. Parents that would like to send their children had that option. So if my child was not invited, but I said, I really need my child to go to school, can they participate? We went ahead and accommodated them, and the children were able to come to school as well. And we found activities, whether they were enrichment or whatever that child needed, we worked with them. And so our dates for our Innovative Days, the first 2 already happened, October 7th and 8th. They were very successful. Upcoming, we have December the 16th and 17th and March 10th and 11th. These days, it wasn't by accident. We picked those days on purpose. It was very much the calendar committee backed them up to holidays. We were off on the 11th, right? When you look at December, that's right before our Christmas break. And when you look at March, that's right before spring break. We also wanted our parents to have that chance if you're planning a vacation or you want to go out of town and your students don't have to go, you have those extra days to kind of a little getaway if you want to. So that was done very intentional as to where we put those Innovative Days. And so the other piece that we're very big on, y'all know we're very data-driven, is how are we going to know it worked? How are we going to know that these students that came up and took part in this Innovative Days are gaining anything? So we were very lucky that our data governance, Mr. Rangel, who's our director of PEAS, actually came up with a little video that I'm going to share so you'll see what it is that we're doing in that area.
Hello, in preparation for Innovative Days, we have created a new screen on eSchool Plus in order to track students that have been identified to participate in Innovative Days and students who actually attended Innovative Days. Let me show you how to get to the screen. On eSchool Plus, if you go to menu, down to registration, under Student District Defined, HCISD Innovative Days screen. This screen will show all 6 Innovative Days for the school year. The first column identifies the criteria that the student was selected to participate in Innovative Days. So we have attendance, enrichment, remediation, and none. The second column will allow you to identify whether the student was in attendance for that day. Once you have entered the criteria and selected whether the student has or participated on innovative days using the screen will allow us to create Cognos report to show trends and patterns and performances. One thing to note regarding the screen is that it is resource-based and only a select few of campus personnel will have access to the screen. If you need access to the screen, please submit a system access request to data governance so that we can adjust your account. Please don't hesitate to call data governance and outcomes should you have any questions. Thank you.
So you can see we kind of thought of everything. We wanted to make sure that we were able, any new initiative, that we're able to go back and study it and look at some data and say, was this effective? These children that went and we, provided all of these instruction in this remediation, intervention, and acceleration, did it actually work? So I'm going to talk a little bit about elementary, what we did in elementary. One of the big programs that we have is our guided reading. We actually have job embedded going on all year. They come and they go, our coaches from Scholastic, and actually go in classrooms, they go in PLCs. And so the guided reading, like I say, that the way that works, they are given an assessment, and it's an individual assessment, the teacher with the child, and they make all of their notations, and then it gives them a level. This child is in a level A, this child is in a level P. And from there, you still teach your reading skill, but you're actually picking a book, a leveled book. We have a whole level library at their level of what they can read, so the child's being successful. And then we're moving them through. So that's actually what we did during our innovative days. We do it all year, but we really focused on small groups during those 2 days. Also, guided math is new to us this year. We're doing the same concept. We're looking at the quantile, which is a sister of the lexile, and seeing where students are ready to learn in math. And then based on where they're at, you also do small groups. And that guided math is very much differentiation of where the child is ready to learn the math skill as well. So kind of changing our frame of mind of how we're doing math as well, right? Making sure that we're meeting students where they're at and not doing that one-size-fits-all approach in math as well. And then our tracking of our House Bill 4545, that's that new bill that came out that tells us any child who did not pass their STAR exam has to have 30 hours of intervention in each subject that they did not meet the mark on. And so we actually utilize these 2 days to track and to code those students that did not pass their STAR. So in elementary, we have our 4th and 5th graders that took it last year, and we were able to document what we did with them as part of the intervention if they did not pass their STAR test. And then there's some pictures. You can see they were doing things, like I said, they were very different. I actually went and visited about 9 or 10 campuses over the 2 days, and my heart was very happy when I saw what was going on because it was things that were very different. Kids were not in classrooms, just sitting in rows. They were like, you can see here on the floor, they're doing an activity there where they're coding in something with math. Over here in the gym, they got numbers, and they're having to do something with the basketball. Over here, they're filling pails. And so things that had the kids up and moving, that were very different and very engaged. And then, like I said, we gave our teachers extra planning time. And so you saw they were able to do parts of the arts here. They're here with the instruments. Over here, they're sitting down and they're with the teacher and they're singing something. And over here, we have some art activities that they worked on. And so just a lot of good things going on. Our teachers getting that extra planning time, but our students also having fun while they're able to learn and fill in those gaps. And so now I'm going to hand it over to Dr. Vidal.
Good evening, everybody. Thank you, Ms. Romero. Thank you very much. And so now we're going to continue on to student wellness, or?
Yeah, no, there's a second part to the presentation.
All right, thank you.
So we're going to take the time right now to talk a little bit about what happened at the secondary level at our middle schools and high schools with our enrichment days. Along the same lines as elementary with Ms. Romero and looking at the data that we're able to extract from NWA MAP growth data. So every student, from 6th grade to 12th grade took a test in the area of reading and then in the area of math to determine where they're at. And utilizing that data, we're able to address student needs based on that data. And so students were strategically placed in particular groups and were asked to come on those days if they needed to catch up or they were behind. When you looked at the lexiles and the quantiles, again, the quantiles being what we look at for math and lexiles being what we look at for reading. And so teachers were very strategic along with administrators to be able to meet the needs of those students based on that data. However, on the other end of the spectrum too, we wanted to take advantage of those extra days to provide additional instruction for our students that were in AP classes, pre-AP classes, and dual enrollment instruction. So we didn't want to skip a beat with those students as well. We wanted to be able to enrich instruction, and so teachers were bringing some of those students in as well, but made it a little bit different and made it very hands-on. And so there are a lot of hands-on activities for both students that needed remediation and that needed enrichment. It was all about applying the skills that they needed to learn to be able to create something. And so you saw a lot of work being done there, and we'll look at a few pictures right now. And then thirdly, we've started to talk about a partnership that we have with Princeton Review, and that's been going very well. And so we were able to provide virtual live tutoring in the areas of TSI, ACT, AP, and also SAT that you don't see there. So we had actual teachers from Princeton Review logging in and working with our students. And so that also is already occurring, but in addition to that, we had it going on during those innovative days. And then along our co-curricular too. So if I'm a student in band, or I'm in choir, I'm in my football, my drill team class, those students also came in as well, because those sponsors and those coaches didn't want to skip a beat as well. So those students would attend those classes, and then they would either go to remediation or an enrichment, depending on where they fell. And then there's just some pictures of things that we saw going on, and you can see it's just like, for example, there are some hands-on activities going on there. You notice they're not necessarily in the classroom, they're in the cafeteria, because we wanted to make sure that it was something different for these students, because we wanted to make it exciting. We want them to look forward to coming the next day, and then also coming in December and coming again in March. So we tried to make it as enticing as possible for our students, and there's some activity being done in art, and then here utilizing, applying math skills to cooking as well. So that was some neat things that were going on at the secondary level. So again, it was all about just making it exciting for students, because we wanted them to enjoy these days. You know, they're called innovative days for a reason, so we wanted to be able to provide that innovation for our families. And so now we'll open up to any questions or discussions that we may have about our innovative days.
Anybody have any questions?
I have one question. So the great thing is, right, that these innovative days are spread across the year, so that every time, you know, so October, we learn, you know, we try it out, we learn a bunch. So I was just wondering, what do you see as maybe the changes or the additions or the tweaks that you might do in December based on our October?
Sure. I know at the secondary level, again, it was our first go around, so we learned a lot. And I think one of the things we learned is we had to plan way ahead, because we started realizing that looking at all of this data and then starting to group kids was going to take a long time. And so, you know, they're already started planning now for December, so that we can make sure we're not doing things last minute.
And so as far as elementary, it's going to be very fluid, because you may have a child in October and we test every month, right? And by December, they may not need it. That's the hope, right?
Right.
And so hopefully those groups are going to be fluid, just like they will be in your classroom. But definitely the iStation, iSIP test we take is at the beginning of every month. So every month you're getting a gauge of where that child's at. And is what I'm doing working, or is it not working? But definitely always keeping our hand on the assessment. And then as December comes around, you start from square one. You're going to look at all of your data and which are my students that need it, where are the ones that are growing, and also our students that are doing well, are they showing growth? Because that will tell us if they're going their legs out. And if they're still doing well but they're not growing, then that's when we want to target, because we want to add value to all our students.
And may I ask one follow-up? On that, so when do you expect to see, so are you measuring like the effect of that first October session? It's probably too soon yet, but maybe before December, like 1st of December, will you look at that?
By December, we'll be able to look at that already, and we have those data chats, and so we'll actually extract our iStation data. Our guided reading as well, they'll be able to see how the children are sifting through those levels and how they're doing. And then, of course, our math growth will be coming up again early in the spring. As soon as we get back, we'll be giving that test, and that's going to show us very solid who met the growth and who did not on that same instrument.
Great. Thank you.
I have a couple of questions, please, and one of them is very basic, and I apologize if I didn't get this. So Laura, you were talking about the fact that for students who were not in attendance, they had the opportunity then to be with their parents and do whatever they're doing. How many students were in attendance?
I would say that we had about 40% of our enrollment there. It was a nice sized group, like 5 to 6, which is optimal, right? Groups all the way up to, I would say some had 7 to a group, 7 to 8. But of what I saw on most of the camps, it was 5 to 6, you know, of your kids. I would say it was about 40% of our students that were actually there. And then we had very minimal parents that said, can I go ahead and send them? But we did have some, and we accommodated them. So if they wanted to send their child, they could send. But then after all the fun activities, more kids may want to go next time around. I don't know. They
Is
probably
that-
got wind of that.
Is that 40% elementary or the whole school district?
That's for elementary. I'm not sure secondary, but your percentage.
So at the middle school, we're around well, more like 50 to 60%, but at the high school, we did see a decline. We were kind of averaging like 20% of the student population that showed up for the high school.
So how do you come back as a teacher? How do you come back into that classroom and your students, hopefully, as you say, the hope is that there is tremendous benefit from this? I realize the whole point of this is individualization. What do you do with all of the students who aren't there and now they're even further behind? I think it's a fabulous idea. How do you do it?
You're not teaching new concepts. The whole thing is to take those students and accelerate them because they're behind, they're not on level. So if I'm a second grade teacher, I have children functioning the reality pre-K and K. Because if I'm a second grader, my last normal year was in pre-K, my last full year. When I was in kinder, I went home after COVID, I didn't come in first grade. And so you probably have students in second grade that are functioning at the end of a pre-K, K, a lot at a K. And so those little ones that come, you're not necessarily teaching a second grade level, you're bringing them up, trying to get them to second grade. So your lesson may be at a kinder level, and that guided reading is very much that. I would have loved to have that when I was a teacher because all of the materials are there. You go, you pick the book, you're teaching your reading skill, but it's at their level, at their reading level. And so you're not, those 2 days since they're not school days, you're not teaching any new concepts. Not new.
And
You're
you do
just
acceleration
reinforcing.
though also for accelerated students already?
So your accelerated students, it wouldn't be anything new, but you could also challenge them because like the guided reading, if I'm at a level P, I can still do that reading skill. I'm not teaching anything new, whatever it is that I already did, but at their level, right, where I'm challenging more. Or it could even be like in a science, something that I'm doing with them in science or in art, just something where they have to do something a little bit more challenging.
2 quick questions. Number one, well, I guess the main thing I'm asking is, how is this integrated into the whole MAPS concept? Are we using the MAPS? You're talking about iStation, which we've had for many years. Now we're implementing MAPS as a way to learn where every student is individually and then take them to the next level. And I'm wondering how we're doing the teacher training for this. And all teachers were required to be there. Is the expectation that they will continue to teach this way every day? What are we doing in terms of the teachers?
So the training with elementaries, I can speak to that job embedded is very much so. They're getting that during their PLC and really how do you do a lesson plan, how do you run your groups. What we've had to do with our teachers, it's not uncommon right now that they have 6 to sometimes 8 reading groups. Think about planning for that. That's a lot of planning, right? So we're telling them, let's start with a couple of groups and work your way because you'll be planning all day for that. But yes, it's getting them to that point where they feel more comfortable and they get a little bit faster at that planning. But going back to the question of the maps and the iStation, we already did a correlation. The Lexals are right in that sweet spot. So
Fabulous.
what we're seeing of a Lexal and iStation is matching up with maps, which is awesome. So it's telling us they're both pretty reliable. And so anytime you look at student data, what we do at elementaries, we try to at least get 3. We try to triangulate it because you don't just want to just look at one thing. Because a child, it's like a puzzle. You've got to get all the pieces and figure out what is it about the child, the child. And Carmen has a great analogy. She says, if I look at a Lexile, it's like if I take my temperature. I know I'm sick, but I don't know what's wrong with me. But if I get my running records, I can see what part of the reading I'm missing, right? Which is more like when the doctor goes into a deeper dive and says, okay, you have a temperature, but I don't know what it is, I need to do more tests. That's exactly what our running record does. It gives us a Lexile, but then also it looks at vocabulary, it looks at comprehension, it looks at fluency. And so as a teacher, there's so much value to those running records, which is our guided reading, because you become an expert in defining what that problem is, and you're able to go in there and teach, this child needs word study, this child needs comprehension, right? This child needs fluency, I need to work. And so it really is giving our teachers the tools to really help our students in the area of reading, because it's very complicated. It really is. There's so many pieces to it.
I really appreciate hearing all of this because what it says is that we're getting to a depth, and I really want to say this as an old school teacher, we're getting to an depth in instruction that frankly, folks, we have not had before, all over the country, right? So by forcing individualization, by bringing in programs and having integrity to programs that force and teach how to do individualization, it is going to get us where we've all wanted to be and we've talked for years about being. This year, right now, is where we have never been before. Am I right?
Yes.
But, well, I agree. However, I think that if we lose sight of the fact that what we're doing right now is really an intervention, right? We're trying to get people caught up. I fear that we forget that this is really an opportunity to really create individualized learning going forward. That's what we really want to get at. But if we just get so fixated as, oh no, this is just intervention, this is just, we can't do that. I mean, absolutely, the intervention is needed. But I think this has got to be a new way, embed this as a new way of providing individualized instruction for kids. I mean, does that make any sense?
It does. And so if I may, from a secondary perspective, we're excited with math growth, right? Because we've never had a true 6 through 12 assessment in the area of reading, the same assessment, neither in the area of math up to geometry and science up to biology. So we're able to really compare our campuses. But to your point, Dr. Pettis, so for example, yesterday I was having a data chat with one of our middle schools. And so we were going through the data, individual data, and you saw some kids that were in a regular math class that were well above the rest of the class in their quantile, which is telling me that this kid shouldn't be in that class.
Yes.
This kid needs to be changed
Sure.
into an honors class.
Yeah.
So they were going to start looking at that, going into depth with those students to determine, to your point, we don't need to just be remediating. What about the
Yeah.
enrichment side of things?
Good.
Excellent, yeah.
And thankful that we're grateful to Map Growth because we're able to see that.
And so a huge celebration with the MAP growth, that pre-K space that Ms. Alves has done so much work in, that was our only grade level if we were above the nation, both in reading and math. We talked a lot about that Math Academy, we had those little ones at second grade, and so you see that in that MAP growth data. So those are the ones that our kinder teachers, we can't start again with number recognition. These kids are adding already, they're doing double digits, they're carrying over. And so
Gosh.
that's the other piece, right, that our teachers have to learn as well, not only to teach to a lower grade, but to an upper grade, all the way up that continuum, right? Not only what comes before you, but what comes after you, because you're getting them in different levels.
Absolutely.
So getting the teachers to that point is maybe a topic for another time, because that's really key to this whole thing is what are we doing to teach the teachers and then have some integrity to checking the teachers, checking the work.
All right. I've got a question also. I just want to make sure I understand this completely from A to Z, if I may ask. So we identify students that are, and I want to make sure I use the right terminology, either deficient, is that correct, or behind. Is that correct?
That's how we, yes, they look at the gaps and they'll identify them that way. However, as we tweak and getting better, I did have a couple of campuses that I want the rest to do it. They had the foresight and they invited GT students and did something with them, but it was only 2 or 3 that did that. So I think that's what they all need to do this next time around to make sure we're not leaving any,
Gaps.
but out that wants to, right?
Right. And so we identify, so now that's a whole different perspective that you're introducing that, but for the general purposes, we identify a population that's behind, right? We know how many there are. So how many of those showed up versus, you said 40%, you said 20%. Did they all 100% show up that we identified, or they were forced to show up, or is this something that?
Yeah, we encouraged them, we didn't force them, and I think I would say we had, the first day was very good, I would say we were probably in the 90%, but on Friday, some did a 3-day weekend, and we were missing some. So that's something that we're gonna study too, is Friday, is that a good,
Model.
That's why we're doing that. And so what we did notice at Friday, we were missing quite a
Sure.
bit more than on Thursday.
Sure. But we know what the goal is. Hey, we want to catch them up. Some of them are a year, 2 years behind. And along the way, we're testing them, you're saying, to see if we're actually helping them, right? The second time we go through, we should have some more data to support whether that was helping or not. And by the end of the year, the school year, we should know that these students were either helped or not helped. because we have identified them from the very beginning, right? And all along the way.
Correct.
Now, what if we do have students that are still behind? Now what do we do?
Well, and I think one of the big pieces with that, Dr. Muniz, is that we are having to really work with our teachers to make them understand that it's not about achievement, it's about growth. Because if we make it about achievement,
Yeah, there you go.
it's gonna be very self-defeating.
That's right.
It has to be about, are they growing? So maybe the child didn't get exactly what we wanted them to get, right?
Right.
They're not right on point, but how much of the gains did they make? And that's what that map growth does. It actually tells us how many met the mark of that 50% or more.
Right.
That's what we want, that's what we're pushing. Because if you do the growth, the achievement will follow.
So then, just to make sure I understand correctly, we're measuring growth percentage, not outcomes percentage.
That's exactly
And
right.
so, do we have those numbers now?
Not yet.
For the first
Well,
test?
so the first time they can't measure growth is the first test, it's a baseline. But when we do it, like I told you, we'll do it again, is it in January? In January?
So you'll have in
We'll
January,
have the data to
and then you
see.
can present that to us so we can
Right,
see what
And the
percentage.
good thing is that it sets goals. We have the teachers individually meeting with students and setting goals, and so there are student goal sheets. And so they're able to, set a goal with the students. It may not be that you're gonna pass, right, but you're gonna grow at least. Show me something, for, by the time January comes, and then we'll set another goal, so at the end of the year.
That makes sense. All right, thank you for.
May I ask just one quick follow-up question, Dr. Moniz? The Bill 4545, is it that we have to offer 30 hours, or they have to attend
It's
30
required.
hours?
It's required in any subject area. It's going to change next year and only include certain subjects, but this year it's anything that they failed, that they did not pass, any STAR or EOC. We have to provide 30 hours of remediation to them, showing that we're making an effort. Now, all of our students that didn't show up for the test,
Right.
they could have taken the BOY that is provided by the state, or if not, we just automatically did an accelerated plan. I think in secondary, you use the maps, y'all use the maps, we didn't use the maps, but y'all did for that. But yes, so in the long run, they're also getting other methods of acceleration during the day. They have some flex times or enrichment times. They're doing after-school tutoring as well, because the 6 days aren't gonna be enough, right? We know that. But this will definitely help. And you think about, the children are fresh, the day after school, they're a little bit tired, we try to give them a snack and all that, but being able to just spend a whole day in a small group, I think you get a lot of traction with that.
And at the secondary, for our middle schools, we have embedded daily, it's called progress monitoring, and so it's 30 minutes a day, every single student gets it. So it could be a student that needs, enrichment, or a student that needs remediation. So for those students that need remediation, as per 4545, they're getting their hours there. And then at the high school, we have remediation courses for all retesters, for any EOC course that a student fails, in addition to any after-school tutorials that we may have.
Thank you.
Are we, I know we probably have to move on, but are we trying to find out if there, or if there's any sort of opportunities for synergy with UTRGV, especially like with this campus, with either some seniors or something like that, and the faculty as well, and then our, I guess, do we still have the step up? I think we still have the step up, right?
Interesting you ask that.
Because all I'm asking is because I know other districts are probably publishing stuff, whatever. We should look at, figuring out, obviously comparing how effective our intervention is here, right, compared to others, but then also publishing that and maybe looking for opportunities to study that, at least to help inform the instructions and teachings going on at UTRGV, and at least within what we're trying to do, create our own homegrown teachers here,
So I just had a Zoom a couple of weeks ago with Dr. Wheaton, the CEO of my house, and she shared with me, I shared with almost Dr. Catan, I was calling her Dr. Catan, she's almost there.
Almost there.
They have a program with U of H, and they're actually giving them the night house classes, and with the teachers that are, the young people that are in the teacher residency program. So they are training them, and then they're coming in and being tutors. And I love that idea, I just loved it, and so I need to set something up, because we're gonna follow up
We
with some
actually
time.
have a meeting next week with
Yeah.
Dr. Wheaton, because we're looking at having a local certification program here with our sophomores in the education pathway, so that they can get like a night house certification before they go out to our classrooms,
Right.
and then partner with her on step up as
Yeah.
well.
So I'm really excited about that because that's more boots in the ground that they can help us.
Isn't Art with them too? I wonder. He's everywhere, that guy. He got carried away. I told him, get 2 or 3 part-time. He has about 6 already. Like, come with it. Like,
And I think that's absolutely huge, because I can tell you all that our teachers coming out of college, generally speaking, do not know how to teach.
That's correct.
And particularly in this environment that's changed so drastically. You know, my concern is always about how are we training the teachers, as I said earlier, how are we training all of our teachers? Because we can't have one teacher on one campus not doing it. It has to be 100% for us to be a district. We have to all be at the same level, or, you know, and always going higher. So I'm really interested in that. And then secondly, you know, how are we involving all of the other students? Because, you know, Bobby's point, 20% means 80% weren't there, 40% means 60% weren't there. They're all students. So how are we taking it from those days and learning from those days, our teachers learning from those days? How are we doing that?
So the programs that we use here, we use throughout the day, like our guided reading, that's just our program that we use. But I also think that a learning point for us is that it's okay to have fun stuff during the day too. It doesn't have to be an innovative day, right? Because the kids have a blast and they learn. And so what does that look like? After school tutorials, they shouldn't probably be in the classroom. You know, this new center that we're gonna open, it's a bunch of outdoor learning spaces. That's good for all kids being outdoor. It changes your mood, the climate, everything else. You know, even as adults, you go outside, it changes your mood. And so I think it's a big learning piece for us. What are those pieces that we're so successful that we can do with all students? We have tutoring after school, we have enrichment during the day. Who says it has to be inside the in a classroom, the 4 walls? Make it outside and do it outside, right? And so I think that's evolving. I think that's evolving for us.
Any other questions?
great
All
job,
right.
guys.
Thank you guys. Thank you so much.
Wonderful.
This could be the game changer, folks.
All right, moving on to topic number 3, or 2, in this case, point number 3. The Student Wellness District Committee, Dr. Joseph Villarreal and Sylvia Gamboa.
Okay, all right, good evening, everybody. Chairperson Dr. Moniz. And so this evening, myself, along with Ms. Sylvia Gamboa, our Director of Guidance and Counseling, are going to report on a lot of the work that's being done here at HCISD as it pertains to student wellness. And so we knew going into the school year that we were going to have concerns and that there were going to be issues with students due to the pandemic in which we find ourselves, whether that be emotional, whether that be social, whether that be health-wise. And so we decided that we needed to create a committee to be able to, be proactive and get in front of some of these issues and be able to work together to address our student needs. And so we have something called our Student Wellness Program. And so, always tying it back to our strategic plan, in particular Goal 1, but more importantly within Goal 1 is Objective 2, which is looking at providing a supportive culture on our campuses. Okay, so to do that and to accomplish this goal, you have to provide that supportive culture on the campus. And so the Student Wellness Committee is all about that. What do we need to do to be able to do that for our students, to provide a campus that they feel supported, they feel healthy, that they want to attend. And so as a committee, we got together and kind of just looked at what is going to be the scope of this program? What do we hope to accomplish? And so one of those would be to ensure that we have a comprehensive plan for a district-wide student wellness program, right? And then within that, we needed to have a foundational support and plan to work with our students. We needed to strengthen our adult competencies and capacities. How can we equip our teachers and our staff members with the skills to be able to work with our students? And then reflect on data for continuous improvement, right? We want to make sure with what we're doing is working, and so looking at that data. And to do some of that, we have implemented character education programs to develop and maintain competencies, SEL competencies within our students. And again, it's all about interactions between students, right? Because we're finding in instances that students sometimes have been stunted in their social interactions with students because they were out of school for 1.5 years. And so just those simple interactions of talking to someone, of looking at someone in the eye, our students are struggling with that. And so some of those programs are looking at that. So first I want to introduce who is on our Student Wellness Committee. And so we gathered up people from the main office as well as campus administration, campus teachers, paraprofessionals, and if you notice there, we also included some high school students because they're in the trenches. They know the concerns that some of their students are facing. So we wanted to make sure that we had good representation across our wellness committee. So we also, as a committee, developed a vision. And so what would be our vision so that we can have this guiding kind of force that's going to go along with this? And we wanted to be able to foster resilient, resourceful students by instilling coping and academic skills in a supportive learning environment. So there you see a picture of the Wellness Committee that was kind of looking at priorities. What priorities will this Wellness Committee have? And then, how can we make sure that we have, everyone's voice being heard so that we can develop a good program, a good vision for that student wellness program. So we also developed priorities, and one of those was addressing student needs by integrating character education into our school-wide practices. And so again, it goes back to those interactions that students are having with students and also students are having with their teachers and other staff members on the campus. And also training our teachers to be able to lead those character education initiatives. And then finally, our third priority is just demonstrating care for students, families, and staff members. So we've heard directly from students, at the beginning of the year, some teachers started class as if we had been in session last school year, right? So they were just going through not necessarily going through the motions, but going through the curriculum. And some students were saying, I haven't been in school for a year and a half. Can you please slow down? I don't understand what you're saying. We've had some students that are having difficulties being seated for 30 minutes. And so they're getting up and walking out of the classroom, not because they're mad, not because they're angry, but they needed to just step outside for fresh breath, because when they were at home for a year and a half, they were able to get up and go when they wanted. Or if I wanted to get up and go to the refrigerator for a snack, I could go get a snack at the refrigerator. Well, being in a school, right, is a different environment. So, one of those was being able to demonstrate that care for students and understanding where they're coming from and what they experience. And now I'm going to turn it over to Ms. Gamboa, because she's going to talk about some of the work also that's being done on our campuses, and then we'll get to some of the details with that work.
I have to apologize, I have to leave, but I have a question for you already, Miss. Did you bring a list of students from South Texas ISD that live in Harlingen so we can?
I am on it, sir.
Super nice.
Try
all
to
right.
get the teachers too.
Well, absolutely. Welcome back. We missed you, and I'm sorry I have to leave early, but I'll get an update from Dr. Villarreal. So thank you.
Thank you, Dr. B. And good afternoon, everyone. So yes, as far as the Campus Student Wellness Committee, we wanted to make sure that at the campus level, we were also having that representation and those advocates for that wellness that we want to get rolling at the campuses as well. So in regards to the Campus Wellness Committee, we have administrator, counselor representation, teachers, as well as paraprofessionals. And so the communication between the district vision and the objectives in regards to the wellness committee were also going to be rolled out to the campuses so that we can ensure that at the campus level that's being done as well. And we also understand the autonomy of the campuses. Each campus has a different makeup, and so we understand that the way they roll it out might be slightly different, but we want to ensure that that does get rolled out and that they know that they have the support at the district level in regards to any questions they may have and in regards to anything they may be needing as far as resources to ensure that that gets rolled out to the students and the staff as well. And so as was mentioned earlier, HCISD has been implementing these 2 character education programs. They are phenomenal programs, so we're continuing with those programs. Quaver is what is utilized at the elementary, and so it's a really nice interactive program. It's got videos, it's got the lessons that the teachers or the counselors can roll out to the classrooms. And so it really emphasizes not just that character education, but also the wellness component and how the students can work with their self-awareness, relationship building, and as a result of all of that, responsible decision making. So those are really important competencies that we want to ensure that our students are learning through the Quaver education, which is a great program. And it really is really good for the staff as well. So as a teacher, I'm rolling this out, and so I'm learning a lot as a teacher. So in my role, even looking over these programs and the different lessons, I myself got a lot out of them too. So I can really see that effectiveness. There's a lot of really fun, engaging activities. There's videos. The district has utilized Quaver for the fine arts program, but they also have one for wellness and character education. So that's what we're picking up. We've been picking up, I believe, since last year and utilizing that in the campuses as well. At the secondary, there's Character Strong, and that's been very strong in Harlingen CISD for some time, so we're continuing with that character education program. Again, this instills leadership skills, relationship building through the activities that the students are able to do in the classroom and working together. And so as we look at the whole of the student wellness program, we want to ensure, again, that character development. We want to look at the student wellness and giving them, again, those competencies to be able to handle the challenges that are coming forth. And so that's pretty much the core of that. What is that as far as character education? What does it mean when we say student wellness? And so, of course, we're responsive when there's, let's say, for example, any mental health awareness issues that might come up. We are responsive, but we also want to be proactive in instilling the skills in our students so that they're able to eventually work through those challenges as well, you know, with the support, of course, of the teachers and the staff. And then we go into relationship building, that's collaborating with each other. As Dr. Villarreal mentioned, the students have been out, some of them, for a year and a half. And so again, we're looking at different gaps, and among those is that relationship building and those social skills and that interaction. So we are seeing the students coming back, having some issues and relearning how to interact with each other and with the teachers. So we're wanting to engage the students and ensure that, you know, we're teaching them how to do that again and getting back to that normal that we're looking for. And so within all of that, self-awareness, self-management, and how to seek and how to utilize the resources that we are providing to the students. So we also have a subcommittee, and this is the Student and Staff Wellness Program Subcommittee. And the goal of the subcommittee, because it is made up of parents, counselors, as well as district staff, is to not only continue to receive that feedback that is imperative from our parents, but also to receive feedback in how we can best communicate these initiatives to our families, because we want to make sure that our parents and our community understand that we do have resources available and we are working towards this initiative to address the student wellness that we're looking at. And so as part of that feedback that we have been receiving, not just from, you know, parents, but our district committee as well and students, is to provide some more information in how, as a parent, how can I help my child? What can I do to help my child? Because I know that a lot of parents are feeling really overwhelmed right now, you know, with everything that their child is going through. And so what we've done is we've started a series of parent presentations. And so the topics for this series also have been brought forth based on the feedback that we have received from the district committee, parents, and of course students. And so we had our first one last week, and it was mental health awareness in your child, and it was a really great presentation by one of our counselors, Ms. Loretta Sanchez. And so as we move forward, we want to ensure that we also provide this as a hybrid. So we're going to have it in person, but we're also going to have it as a webinar. So we do understand that some parents may not be able to attend in person, but there was a great interest. So those who were not able to attend, we would be able to not only provide it as a webinar, but we would also send it out, so it would be recorded. So that would be an additional resource. And other topics that did come up were helping your child cope with anxiety, effective ways to communicate with your child, internet safety, and we did have quite a bit of feedback in regards to parents wanting to know, what is the district doing? What are the district initiatives? Because there's a lot of really great things happening in the district and at the campus level. And so the parents want to know that. And so that is also something we're looking at, making sure that we relay that to our parents. And so these are some of the resources that we do have available. We have always professional development for our counselors. We understand that the counselors are a lot of times at the forefront in dealing with any students that have any mental health issues or crisis. In fact, they've been working double time and triple time to make sure that the kids are okay, checking in with the students and providing that resource to them. And so we do provide them training in regards to crisis intervention. We have had Tropical Texas Health Behavioral Center come in and speak to our counselors and provide that training as well. We've had Palms Behavioral Center come in and talk to the counselors, let them know what the resources are in regards to the Palms Behavioral Center. Next week, we're going to have the Children's Bereavement Center. We're also going to have the American Heart Association come in and talk to the counselors during the PLCs.
to give them more information about what are the resources. So the more that we educate our counselors who are on the front lines, the better the opportunity will be for the students to know about these resources and to be able to utilize them. We also have a licensed professional counselor, Ms. Rosalinda Cruz. She's phenomenal, and she's available Monday through Thursdays from 5:30 to 8 p.m. at the Annex Building. And it's for any HCISD student. They do not need a referral, they do not need an appointment, and they don't need any kind of payment or insurance or anything like that. So that is definitely a free service to our students. And so we do try to get the word out as much as possible to let everyone know that that is a service that is available. And she has been quite busy, which we're glad that we have her, but she's fantastic and she has been utilized quite a bit. The parents are coming in with their child, and so that's a really good resource for our students. We also have Tropical Texas Health Behavioral Center as far as campus support, so they are able to go to the campuses in person now to be able to assist with crisis, but they are also able to assist with any students that are already on that caseload. So they might have caseworkers that have our students on their caseload, and so now they can be there as a presence on the campus to actually help to counsel with the students and work with the students. And so as far as our campus highlights, this is some of the great things already happening at the campuses, and I'm always encouraging, send me pictures, let me know when something's going on. I'd love to see that and highlight that, because again, our campuses are really going above and beyond to try to incorporate that character education and student wellness as much as possible. So for example, on the top left, you can see that's at Gano. They have a Ravens Challenge, and so they have weekly activities where they, like in this one, for example, it's the airplane challenge. So they get together in a team. They have to design an airplane to make sure that it is as aerodynamic as possible to hit a certain target. And so, but what you see is when you go to the campus, you can see all these different classrooms. The teachers too, they get all involved. You can see the pictures, they're all having a great time, but they're collaborating and they're reconnecting with each other. And that's the relationship building. So at the end of the day, it's not about the airplane. It's about the fact that they came together as a team, working together, having fun, going outside, throwing airplanes, and just having that moment, like before, right? And they really ask for that, and they really need that. And then on the top right, you can see Vela. This is awesome. What Vela did is they have QR codes all over the school, and you can go up to the QR code and scan it, and a motivational message will pop up. And so there's kids scanning, there's students, there's staff. Everybody's having a really great time with that. So I really love that idea. And then down on the right, we have, this was a really cool drone video that STEM Square Academy did. And so what they did, it was for Unity Day, which is United Against Bullying. And so when you see the video at the beginning, it's just like a cluster of kids in like a little mob, but then they organize themselves where they came out the first circle, then the second circle, and then you see the heart, right? And so that's also a lot of collaboration. Just imagine putting together middle school kids, getting them to do this, right? That's a lot of working together, and it just was it's a really nice visual, a representation of the campus coming together. And then up here on the top, we have the Unity tree, very similar to the QR code, but they're writing those motivational messages on leaves, and they put them all over the tree, and the kids get to come and look for their message, but as a result, they're seeing everyone else's message and the staff as well. And of course, last week was Red Ribbon Week, so there were a lot of really cool activities. Spirit Week, a lot of really fun stuff to really engage and to reconnect. I think that's the biggest part of it, reconnecting our students with each other, with the staff, so they can feel welcome again on the campus. And Dr. Villarreal has actually a list of resources this is the list of, it's called Counselors in the Community, and we provide this list to any students or families, parents that might feel that their child needs that additional assistance in regards to counseling. And as you can see, Ms. Cruz is down there at the bottom as well, and that is what we also encourage them to go visit with her if they do need that additional counseling as well. So that's all for that.
Any questions?
Any questions?
I would like to add, what you have there, that's what every family gets here in HCISD. And they're always kind of thrown aback by the number of resources that are available, and especially that LPC opportunity that we provide there at the bottom with Ms. Rosalind de Cruz. Free service, free of charge, Monday through Thursday, 5:30 to 8. You can't beat that. And so a lot of our families take advantage of that. So the lady will provide student and family counseling. So she'll allow family members to come in. So she's a great resource to HCISD.
Any questions from
I
the
have
committee?
Good question. First of all, great presentation. Thank you for, taking care of our students, because this is what we were kind of anticipating coming back from the pandemic. There was going to be we talked about the academic gaps, but there was going to be this need. I loved it all. Do we have any resources for our teachers or our counselors? I mean, I know this is a student wellness, but I had the thought occurred to me that, we're taking care of our students, that's great, but we also want to take care of our teachers.
I'll let her, because there was a neat activity that HSHP did for their teachers. So
Yes.
talk about that.
Yeah, and the counselors, as you know, they're very passionate
Right.
about, making sure that wellness is there, and they are considering the teachers as well, the administrators too. And I always tell them that they also need to take care of themselves, because as counselors, they hear it all, they work with it all, and they do have that passion for it. And so at HSHP, the counselor there got together with the principal, Ms. Garza, and so they've created a Zen zone, which is for the staff. And so it's a space for the staff to be able to go and just unwind. It's different from the lounge, because the rules are you cannot talk about work. If you go over there, it's because you're trying to unwind, you want to relax, just to have that moment. And I think it really makes a difference. So they've created this beautiful ambiance in that little room. And so they have couches, and they have like those oils to kind of help you relax a little bit. And so there's other campuses that are doing that in regards to staff wellness. STEM Square, they do a Zen day. And so there's a day every month where they invite the staff to come over, and they just treat the staff for either chili or they'll have aromatherapy, podcast, massage, something to really give the staff that time that they're needing. I've also seen on some campuses where the department chair, they have a little bit extra time in regards to conference. They'll go and they'll relieve the teachers randomly for like 5 to 10 minutes. Like they'll go in there and say, go take your 10 minutes, go rest, I got your class. And so that's a part of also working together and taking care of each other. I think that's also really important. But
I do want to add to this, Gamboa doesn't like to their own horn, but at, one particular campus, there's a number of teachers, maybe like up to 10 that were really struggling. And not struggling in the classroom per se, but just struggling with, coping and coming back. So she went over there and did a whole counseling session with those group of teachers, right? The principal called and says, hey, I need this. And our counselors are great at that, but also sometimes our counselors are tied up with students, right? So we have additional resources like Ms. Gamboa that's available. And so she went over there and spent a lot of time with those teachers. And so they felt a lot better because of her work. So thank you for that, Ms. Gamboa.
Awesome. Thank you.
Hey, Dr. Menendez, I wanted to just ask, kind of as a follow-up to that, and now being back, right, like, we're in it, we're in the thick of it, it's not all rosy and perfect. What are the gaps? Because I think that there's an opportunity with these grant funds coming in, and the fact that this really is about building capacity and the air is important, and the outlets are important, right? It's all important. We can't forget about this piece. So if there are gaps, I think now is the time to really just dive in on that, own that. And part of it is, part of it's making me think about, as an organization, right? The way that we can de-stress in an organization is that we feel like we have control over things, that we can make decisions that matter in our organization. And so the ability to step away and do things, like that's kind of that, like I gotta do it now, right? Like I'm about to lose it, I gotta step out. But there's also just organizationally, how are we making sure that our staff are feeling like they have more control over things? How are we feeling like we're building like systems across every campus, ways for maybe more time for counseling and less time for advising, right? You know, there's always that balance, right? We're so used to making sure they have the classes, but this year, and probably for a while, it's like, we gotta just focus on the kid or the teacher. So anyway, I would love for us to think about these structural system things too.
So meanwhile, you do have a lot of campuses that have kind of, taken some of the workload away from teachers, things that we can handle on the administrative end or with our campus support staff, we're going to be able to do that. But I do want to recognize some of the work that Ms. Cortana is doing. So she started last week with teacher focus groups. And so she's bringing particular teachers in for that exact purpose, not only for, to get feedback from teachers on curriculum and instruction in the classroom, but also looking at that other component too. So how can we help you to make it easier for you and make it better? Because it's hard right now. It's
Right.
real hard on our teachers, and we recognize that. And I think they appreciate the fact that we recognize it, but what more could we do to alleviate some of that stress?
Thank you.
Thank you, and continuing that, that really is, number one, this is fabulous, and I'm proud and I'm honored to be a part of a school district that is bringing such intentionality to this work, because it really is critical. All of that we're doing in terms of education and that we've just learned, and the new approaches that we're doing, and that only matters if we have children to teach. And there are districts that are losing children. I mean, they're dying. Some children, particularly teenagers, are not surviving this. And I'm particularly interested, along with what Dr. Roniger was saying, how do we structure this, just as we were saying, what we've learned in this district, and we celebrate that we've learned it, is we work with intentionality, we're really going to do this, and we figure out how to do it, and we do it well, and then we measure that it's brought to every campus, every teacher. It's not, we used to really celebrate individuality among our campuses, and I think what we've learned is that worked fine maybe before, worked pretty good maybe before. That's not what's going to work from here on out, not for a while. And so everybody's got to get on board. All the teachers have to be trained. I'm so proud that you're working with that. But I would just like to echo that, it's got to be everywhere, every campus, every teacher. And again, we've got to own the gaps. I like that phrase so much, Belinda. We've got to own where our problems are. And my thought about this is we really need some parents. We've got some parents in this district who are past masters at this, and we have got some parents who are suffering and reaching out for help. And so I really hope that we're involving a large number of parents. And it occurred to me that this would be a perfect opportunity to perhaps revitalize, or suggest, I know we can't do it ourselves, but to revitalize our whole PTA concept of what PTA is doing, and bring the PTA people in, bring our medical community, our doctors who are parents who are in this school district, bring our suffering parents in, the ones whose children have had problems, because we've had some problems already this year, and we expected it, but that doesn't mean we have to own it. I think this is something, Bobby, that I would like to suggest that we continue with, follow up on whatever you all consider is a good timeline, but I think we all are very interested in knowing what we're going to do and how we're going to get this threaded throughout our entire school district. Your unbelievable approach to what you're doing. What we learned is it was great to have the character training that we had as just sort of a definition of a district of what we are. Now we're into rescue. Very different than a character education program. Very different.
And this is just not a one-year thing either, right? I mean, this is going to be multiple years that we're going to be dealing with it. So that's how active this committee will be. And I know Mr. Stupart's been doing work with the PTAs as well, and trying to, get that going again on rebuilding the membership there so that we can take it to the PTAs as well.
I would get the PTAs doing it. I mean, I think that's a wonderful idea. I'm Shane, you're perfect. That's a wonderful, Education Foundation may want to get involved in some funding for this.
Oh, they'll be all over that, Hey.
It's already on that?
They'll be all over it.
Oh, yeah, I just think that if we can get this right, we will be very grateful. As time goes by, we will be very grateful. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Floria. And with some last comments, fantastic presentation. I think personally, we're at the surface level. I'm just saying, I think we got to go deeper. We're not only dealing with, you know, I've talked to hundreds of teachers. And I know this is at the student level, but as you mentioned, I mean, I talk to teachers that are really suffering. I know you see them more than I do, but they are really, really struggling daily. They can't sleep, they have anxiety, and they're really, really struggling to be the best versions of themselves for our students. And some of them are really at that edge. And we just need to come up with some great concepts, some great ideas to be able to help them. Because if we can't help them, guess what? We can't help our students.
You hit the nail on the head.
You know,
there,
and-
where they
and
want to
not-
be the best versions of themselves.
Yes, and not only are we dealing with the psychology and of so many variables right now not only in our community, but the United States, and the anxiety of what's going on with our health system and with different ideas. But we're also dealing with the fact that, you know, it doesn't seem like there's a clear end. And without that clear end, there's just people continue to suffer, right? And I think we just need to start communicating with our teachers and with each other. Hey, let's be positive. Let's what can we do? Let's focus on solutions. Let's focus on positive things. I love the idea of going outside with our kids. We need to do that with our teachers, right? We got to be outside in the environment. We got to be moving. We got to be talking. We've got to focus on positive things. We got to be talking positive language, because unfortunately right now the rhetoric is negative. Just my 2 cents. But thank you guys for this wonderful, wonderful presentation. Any other questions, comments?
Just an amazing amount of work
Yeah.
that you're doing and taking on, and so you can tell we care, right? We want to be there, we just need you tell us, and we're
Yeah,
gonna
this is
support,
big.
right?
This is big. This is really.
Right time.
Yeah. All right, thank you guys so very much, and it's now 6:11, and I'd like to adjourn this meeting. Oh, yeah, future topics, yes, thank you, Joseph.
So a few topics, and I'll just do it from
Yeah.
here. So a couple of things that we're looking at is, can you believe we're already in our 3rd year of Vernon Middle School World Languages Academy? So
Wow.
those students started in 6th grade, and now they're in 8th grade, and now we're slowly venturing out into the IB world with that campus. So we're going to be presenting on that in a future meeting, where we're at and what the future looks like for Vernon Middle School. And then also a lot of the work that's been done with Holdsworth in our design committees, in particular Mr. Stu Park and his talent identification committee. So he's going to be reporting on that in future meetings, as well as all the other design committees that we're having in this Fort Collins, been doing work with Holdsworth on that.
Awesome, thank you guys very much. And at this point in time, it's 6:12, and this meeting is now adjourned. Thank you very much.
Great meeting. See you next week.